I'm Meghan Hirschenroder, and I'm a young person in recovery.
Meghan, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So, Meghan, tell me how it was growing up.
Growing up, I have two older sisters, an older brother and a younger brother. And as far back, I can only remember back to the age of 4, surprisingly. And my mom is an active addict to this day. And she was on, me and my family used to live as a family until about 4. When I was 4 years old, my mother was on felony parole, and she violated, and parole took her off to prison. And my dad got full custody of me and my younger brother because we share the same mother and father. Mm-hmm. And the rest, my other siblings, we were like half or whatever. So my dad was only able to take custody of me and my little brother. So from the age of 4 all the way through my entire life, my dad raised me and my younger brother by himself. And he did an amazing job. I mean, we didn't need or want for anything. We lived in the country down in Columbia County, so like we had a yard to play in. We could ride our bikes in the road, climb trees. Like, I used to make my little brother eat dirt. And, we went to school, and everything was fine. We had awesome Christmases, birthday parties, like nothing was wrong with my childhood. It didn't even really bother me that my mother wasn't around because I had everything I needed from my dad and my little brother and friends, and it didn't really start to bother me until like I got older, when like my body started changing and I didn't have like a woman to talk to. That's when I wanted my mom around. I didn't know how to do my makeup or my hair, so that's when it started to affect me that she wasn't there.
So growing up, school, no issues in school?
I was an honor student. I was in the paper all the time for my grades. I was really into sports. I did soccer and softball. I did really good in softball. I got a bunch of awards for it. I wish I continued it, but once I turned 16, I got a job. It interfered with practice. I was in chorus, and I did cheerleading and color guard, and I did theater. I got along with everybody. My little brother struggled. I didn't. I did really good in school. I liked school. Everything was fine. I got my first job when I was 16, working at a ice cream shop, and my dad taught us how to budget our money because we wanted to go to the skate factory every Friday. So we did chores, and I don't know. It was a good childhood. I wouldn't change it. And I never smoked cigarettes or anything like that. I pretended to, but because it was cool. We used to sneak cigarettes in like the backyard or something. I didn't know what I was doing. And everything changed when I turned 15.
So what happened when you were 15?
I started smoking weed and drinking.
How'd that take place? How'd you get introduced to?
I had a friend. She was my. I don't really remember. I remember who she is. Her name was Danielle, and my mom and her mom used to hang out. They used to get high together, and we were in the same school. And I don't remember how we met or how we kicked it off. But she became like my first best friend. Not my first best friend, but. And she smoked weed, and we used to just like smoke weed and watch WWF and like drink coffee. And that's how, I started smoking weed. And I don't remember the first time I ever drank. I don't remember the first time I got drunk. I just remember being able to drink a lot and thought it was cool. I never drank beer. It started off with liquor. And I believe I matured really fast because of the lifestyle that I lived. I had to like help out with the house and help out with my little brother, and it was just how I lived. So it was like I always hung out with like the older kids, and on top of it, I could drink and handle it. I wasn't like sloppy and puking. It was like I was the life of the party. Everybody wanted me to hang out. And I did that until I met a boy. And that got me into the harder drugs. Everyone warned me about him. I met him at a graduation party. And everybody told me he was bad news. He did drugs. He beats his girlfriends. And I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. I'm going to change him.
And how old were you at that point?
I believe I was 16 years old.
So a year later.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I always told myself I was never gonna do drugs. That's what took my mom away. People who do cocaine and heroin and things like that, they're scumbags. And I started hanging out with this boy, and I didn't know it at first, but he was into those kind of drugs. And by the time I realized it, I was like almost infatuated with him. Like I wanted to be that girl that he changes for, and he's gonna fall madly in love with me. And that's not what happened at all.
Didn't work out that way.
Oh gosh, no. I don't want to say it ruined my life, but I am not the person I was before him, and it's kind of sad because I was really, I had really good self-esteem. I had like a really good outlook on life. I trusted people, and everything is just different now. And I'm like scared of being hurt. And, you know, he was bad into drugs, and he was abusive. And I remember the first time I decided to get high with him, he wanted to go hang out, and I didn't want him to leave. I wanted to hang out, so I told him I'd go with him wherever he was going. And they started getting high on cocaine, and him and the guy were like, have you ever tried it? You know, and I was embarrassed because I'd never did, and that's what they were doing, so I tried it. And it just progressed after that. It was like I just kept trying everything, and I thought that he would stay home if I would get high with him, or we would get along better, and it just got worse. It just got worse because the abuse picked up it was like every little thing, and he had OCD, so it was like if I didn't clean the way he wanted me to, I would get hit for it. If I didn't have money for the drugs, if I didn't have a way to get the drugs, if I did drugs at school, because once I was still in high school. Mm-hmm. So eventually I started hanging out with a different crowd at school, the kids who did drugs. So it's like sometimes I would get high at school, and if he knew about it, it's like if I didn't bring half of it home, I'd get hit, or he wouldn't pick me up. Things like that. It just turned into like every little thing. If it wasn't his way, I would get hit. And you know, he cheated, he lied, all these things, and I stayed for 3 years.
How was your relationship with your dad during this period?
Almost non-existent. I've always been close with my father, always. Lee was his name. I didn't have a life outside of him. It was just him. And my dad didn't know what was going on for a while. And then
he hid it from him?
Oh yeah, nobody knew, because I still went to school. I still maintained my grades.
So nobody knew you were using?
I think my little brother did. Because I had went to school one day, still up from the night before, and I would try to avoid my brother. And he said to me, and it was so weird, because I would go into school, and everybody would be like, oh, you look so good today. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And my brother would be like, it's funny because everybody doesn't know it, but I know you're high. And I'm like, what? But I didn't know if he knew what I was high on, but I didn't. So it was just weird. I mean, the people that got high as well knew that I was, but like as far as my family was concerned, I don't know if they knew. It was never really brought up. My dad eventually, there was this girl at school who I told, she knew that Lee was abusing me. One day I had went to school, and I had like a big scratch across my neck because Lee had pulled me out of the car and choked me with my sweater. And she told my little brother. And my dad, I had talked my father into letting me move into Lee's house when I was 17, with his mother. His mother was an alcoholic. And my dad said, the only way I am even going to consider this is you need to make it to school every day. And it was out of my my school jurisdiction or whatever. So Lee was responsible for making sure I get to school every day. So that was the deal. And it worked for a little while. But of course, the drugs became a problem. I stopped kind of going to school. Lee would pretty much kick me out every other week and make my dad come pick me up at 3 a.m. Just random craziness. And at that point, I was like, Lee had such control of me that my dad was too scared to pull me away. He told me this after the fact. He said he was too worried to do anything because the control that Lee had over me, he was worried that if he tried to take me out of the situation, I was going to run away, and he was never going to see me again. He didn't know what to do.
So started with marijuana and alcohol at 16. Progressed to cocaine at 17. Where'd it go from there?
Crack, heroin, any kind of pill.
How long did it take to go from, cocaine to crack and then ultimately to pills and heroin?
I want to say it might have even been within 6 months.
Wow.
Because once I tried one, it was just like everything. Pills, then it was like heroin, then it was crack, and then it was like everything all at once, and then it was like, it's weird because like it's almost like I don't remember. I just remember trying everything for one time and then being completely addicted and everything being completely unmanageable.
So you go from doing nothing at 15 years old, cheerleading, color guard, doing great in school, playing sports, smoking weed and drinking at 16, and within 6 months, crack, heroin, pills. So in the course of a year and a half, from nothing to everything.
My life was completely flipped upside down. I had no friends. I had no self-esteem. I was lying. I was stealing. I wasn't going to school. I failed one of my finals in 12th grade because I did graduate. But like my 12th grade year, I don't know how I did it. Because if I was there, I was either trying to get high in the bathroom, or I was still up, or I wasn't there, or I was skipping class. I don't know how I did it. And that's the first time I ever got arrested. I was 18. I turned 18. That whole situation where the girl told my brother that Lee was hitting me, my dad came and picked me up on a Friday, said I had to come home for the weekend. I was so mad about it. And I went to school on Monday and beat the girl up and got an assault charge. And I got arrested. I got an assault charge. I had to pay $3,200 in restitution. I was put on 3 years probation. And shortly after, I broke up with Lee after my high school graduation.
So things got better after you got rid of Lee.
Yeah, I actually, what was weird is I didn't do enough heroin to be sick or go through withdrawals. So I don't even think I was addicted at that point, if that makes sense. It was just, I just did what he did. It didn't have control over me. He had control over me, so I just kind of went along with him. Because when we broke up, I didn't do drugs. That was it. I just went home to my dad's.
Wow.
I just didn't do anything. I
No
stayed
treatment, just stopped.
Nope. I just went to my dad's, and I mean, mentally I was messed up.
Sure.
But as far as like withdrawals and anything drugs, I didn't crave anything. I just went home and stayed in my room for 3 months, but eventually, I kind of picked myself back up, and I got a job, and I ran into a girl at work that got high with me and Lee, and that's how I started using again.
Started all over again.
Because we decided to go out drinking. She sniffed coke, so I was like, oh, okay. And then once I started back up, that was it.
Didn't take long to get you right back where you left off with Lee.
It was only cocaine. It wasn't everything else. It was Thursday nights. It was our thing. We would get drunk. We were waitresses. We would get drunk. We'd go out clubbing. And then like every once in a while we'd sniff coke. It wasn't a problem, because it was fun then. It was like then I was drinking a lot. That was like my big thing. I started to just drink once a week, and then it was like 3 times a week. Then it was like every day, and then the cocaine became a problem. So I graduated in 2006. I was 18, and then like in 2008, I decided to go to rehab. I went by myself. I was still on probation. I gave a few dirty urines, and they violated me, but they didn't send me to court or anything like that. They said they'll take care of it at the end of my term, but I could not stop doing coke. So I put myself in rehab.
And that was when?
2008.
Okay.
I went to McPike. I completed, and I came home.
I must have just missed you. I went in 2007.
Yeah, I went in 2008 and I completed, and I didn't really get the whole like, you can't substitute one drug for the other, and so I came home and my boyfriend at the time threw a party. We just got drunk.
Home party?
Yes, without the coke, it was just alcohol.
Oh, boy.
And
guess who's home from rehab?
yeah,
Had the noisemakers and balloons.
Yep, and I didn't think alcohol was a problem. Mm-hmm. I went for cocaine. Alcohol's not a problem. And little did I know that I have a problem with alcohol too. So it just started everything back up. Everything else after that is like a blur. I don't remember like how it progressed. I just know it did, and eventually I started getting high on crack, and I ended up getting high with my mother. And for the next pretty much 8 years, that's what it's been. I've been practically with my mother, smoking crack, and eventually I started doing heroin again, and it progressed into shooting, and that's what I've done every day for the past, since a month after I graduated McPike.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Where was Dad now?
Where is he now?
Where was he during this time?
Oh, he...
So Mom resurfaces.
Mm-hmm. I pretty much went to her.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get high, and I didn't know where to get it. I knew my mom. I'm shocked. She didn't want to at first, but it wasn't hard to convince her. I was like, I got like $700, and I'm trying to get high, and it happened. She let it happen.
So things continue to progress, and at some point, it stops. The brakes come on. What happened?
Well, I go through those 8 years, completely hot mess. Everything that comes along with being an addict. And you're talking about like right now, how I got to the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We probably don't have time.
No,
to talk
I'm not
about
gonna. Yeah,
the
there's
worst
no.
things
It's all
that-
this. It's all.
Yeah.
It all is the same. Everything happens.
We can't cram 8
Yeah.
years into.
Yeah. I hit the bottom. I in April of 2013, I was in a drug raid. I had a drug dealer boyfriend.
It's wrong place, wrong time, right?
Of course. Kind of. My dad, we knew it was going to happen. We lived where I lived was a small town. Mm-hmm. Law enforcement knows my father just from growing up. And they said, Bill, we saw your vehicle at this house. What are you doing there? And he's like, my daughter lives there. And he's like, you should probably get her out of there. They're being watched. And my dad warned me, but I was like, my drug was more important. So I remember it was April 1st, actually, 2013, 6 o'clock at night. They came in, they raided the house, and I got arrested with everybody, and I just got a possession charge. But once you get kind of put in that system, then they start watching you, and I eventually got arrested like every week after that.
Wow.
I ended up catching like 7 to 10 charges scattered throughout Columbia County. I didn't go to court for any of them. And then 6 months later, in September, I was picked up. I was arrested. I lied about who I was, stupid thing because everybody knew me down there. And the cop.
No, I just look like her.
Yeah. No, well, it was funny because I've never seen the cop before. So I was like, oh, my name's Mandy. I said I was my sister's name and I would have got away with it. But he called backup because he was a rookie. And the guy goes, oh, Miss Hershenroder. And he's like, no, that's Mandy Ham. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, what are you doing? Get out of the car. So I got arrested and they recommended drug court. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, no.
Why not?
At that point, I wanted to get high. I wasn't thinking about getting help. Throughout those 8 years, I went to detox a few times, but I didn't last, obviously. And I just wasn't, it was because it ruined my whole day. I wasn't ready to say yes. I was like, no. And then, of course, they scared me. They were like, you have like 7 charges scattered, and the DA wasn't, he's like, I'm not pretty much letting you get off any of them. So in my mind, I was hearing that I was going to prison for
you're
7
heading to
years.
Bedford Hills.
Yeah. He's like, you're getting a year for every charge. And I was like, oh my God. So I took drug court, and thank God for that.
And how long ago was that?
September 2013.
How's drug court been?
I've been to jail 3 times since drug court. I relapsed twice, and I was sent to jail for my behaviors for lying and acting out. Not acting out, but it was pretty much lying. The judge sent me to jail and made me write a paper on integrity. That was really hard. It was sad, actually, because I had such a hard time writing it because I didn't know what it was, and I think that hurt. That actually made me realize, like, there's something wrong. You know, like, if I can't write a paper on honesty, like, that is not how my father raised me. So I started to do the work, and I relapsed after a year after that.
Did anything in particular contribute to your relapse? Or, you know, sometimes people can look back and say, hey, this is what happened. You know, I've never been a big fan of saying to people what happened, but we know that, you know, relapse just doesn't happen. People don't, after a period of abstinence, just wake up with a needle in their arm.
Right.
Usually something happens or they stop doing something that worked.
I mean, there's a bunch of things that now that I know about it, I could say, but honestly, I believe it has a lot to do with my self-esteem. I think I was always worried about being judged, so it's like my self-esteem and my honesty. I was always worried about being judged, so I never spoke up about certain things that I needed to speak about. It was always surface stuff about, like, oh, I'm having a bad day because God knows what. But it was really just like underlying things that I didn't want to be honest about because I was embarrassed about. And those were the things that I had to address so that I could, like, rebuild myself. So I wasn't being honest, and I was keeping secrets pretty much, and I had no self-esteem. And I was scared. I didn't want to make friends. I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't want to be around women. I always use the excuse I'm more comfortable with men because I was raised by my father and my little brother, and I wasn't getting anywhere with that.
So how are things now?
Things are amazing. I'll have 11 months on the 14th.
Wow.
I work 2 jobs. I have my license back. I have a car. My relationship with my family is amazing. And I just feel good. And it's been a long time since I've been able to, like, laugh and be happy and be okay with who I am in the mirror. And, you know, like, people look up to me and people ask me for advice, and, like, my little brother asks me for advice. Sometimes he needs, like, help with, like, financial stuff, and it feels good to be able to, like, help. You know, I show up for things. I'm on time. Like, that's cool. You know, I'm going to go back to school eventually, and I want to have kids someday, and, like, I'm going to be able to do those things because of my recovery. I would never be able to do any of that if I stayed where I was.
Has anything tested your recovery?
Oh my God, yeah.
And how do you get through that? Because people can always find an excuse or a rationalization to use.
I've done that so many times, and it's nothing comes out of it besides, like, more, like, my hole is deeper every time I falter to those things. And this time around, I made the commitment that using is not an option, so I have to figure something out.
How have you been tested over the past 11 months? Because I'm sure there's been an opportunity where, in the past you may have said, I know what'll solve this.
My mother is a big trigger. It's really
Still
hard.
actively using?
Yep. It's really hard when she's telling me she misses me and she's crying on the phone. I want to rescue her. But a lot of my relapses, she is my foot in the door to that world still.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge focus on like people, places, and things, but so many people don't include family members with that.
It's hard. It's always been my struggle to let her go. Because I just have this fear that something's going to happen to her, she's going to die, and she's going to feel alone.
Probably same fears that people had about you at some
Oh, of
point.
course. And it's crazy because when I worry about my mother, I think about, gosh, this is probably how my dad felt, my little brother felt. And I don't want anybody to feel like that. So, and I finally I just let my mom know, like, I can't do this with you anymore. Like, you need to get your life together. And if you can't, then I can't be part of it. It's hard. It hurts. I miss her, but I asked myself, like, what is it that I miss? Because I never had a relationship with her. So what am I missing?
Yeah.
So
right.
I finally grasped that, and I can, I don't know what the void is that I'm trying to fill because it's never been there. So I'm okay with it today.
What advice would you give a young person that's struggling with addiction or a young person in recovery? Because let's be honest, a lot of young people, it's big with young people using. It's not always, cool to be young and in recovery.
Yeah. I would say kind of almost like the cliche things, like don't give up and it gets better. It's hard though, but eventually, like what worked for me was I began to be able to laugh again. Like if you really think about like when you're in active addiction, you don't laugh. And when I started to feel better and I was like having like that belly roll laugh, like that felt so amazing. And if someone can just experience that laugh, I think it would it just makes it easier because all of a sudden you remember that you're alive. And just don't give up. Like it's really hard in the beginning, but it's so worth it. And like my biggest fear was like when when all of a sudden I was doing what I had to do and like I was clean and in recovery, like it was boring at first, but I always try to remember what I used to like to do before and I try those things again. And then it opens doors to other things and like it's possible.
Meghan,
it's
thank
so
you.
possible.
Thanks.
So, thank you.